green light will come. have anything to do with our drug dealing situation at Yacona, which it doesn't.
It really
I mean,
doesn't. That's something
right.
separate, but we are working.
Yes. Okay.
So, like I shared with you, we
Yeah, I understand. So whatever you want to say about. Okay. All
And
right.
I can cover that in a general
The booth will control.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not goofing around.
No, we're pros, man. COVID. We had hard lessons during COVID. Okay.
Yes, sir. Needs 1 second. The camera guy needs 1 second.
The hand up has a special meaning. And the meaning is we're about to start. That's fantastic, isn't it? I'm Jack Hodges. I'm the pastor of Babcock Presbyterian Church. And I cannot tell you how excited we are to have you here. I cannot tell you how excited we are to see this building being used for a community activity. I cannot tell you how good it is that there are as many people as this who have an interest, a passion, a set of questions. Now, if you look on the monitor, you notice that it says welcome and remarks. I have just finished the welcome. I have one more remark. Our council person, Mike Etel, the man who has, with his staff, put this whole ball game together. Come and play ball.
Thank you, sir. I think my mic's working. I got a special mic. I usually have to hold the microphone up to my face. I wanted to first welcome everyone here tonight. I know the subject matter is not necessarily pleasant. We all take crime on the Loch Raven corridor and in Towson very seriously. I thought this would be a good opportunity for not only the community to, and I hate the word, to use the word vent, but this is also your meeting in tonight. We want to hear from you about things that you're concerned about. We have the police chief here, Police Chief Rob McCullough is here, Major Camelli, who is in charge of Eastern Command. She goes from Towson to Dundalk. She actually was our Towson police captain most recently. Captain Craig Schroeder is here tonight. Lieutenant Romanoff is here as well. And I'm sorry, Colonel Kelly. I missed Colonel Kelly in the back. They have all been very familiar with Loch Raven, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We also have a special guest tonight in our new county executive, who is not new to the Loch Raven area because she was our senator. Kathy Klausmeyer is here as well, and she's going to say a few words and introduce a few other people, and then we're going to let the police talk, and then we're going to turn it over to you guys to tell us what you want to talk about. And again, know that we're taking notes and that we're working on it. A lot of the things you may tell us, we may already know, but we want to hear what your concerns are. And so with that, I'm going to leave it to Madam County Exec.
So I'll just go up here.
Yes.
Good evening. I would rather be here. I was going to say it's a pleasure to be here, but I'd rather be here for other circumstances. And for the pastor, I don't know where you went. Oh, there he is, right there. Thank you very much for the use of the church. It's beautiful. And it is important for me to be here tonight to see community members in person, hear your concerns, your experiences through the past few weeks, and to make sure your questions are answered. And we have quite a staff here that will be able to help you with that. The recent incidents in the community were shocking, awful, horrible, and I bet there's other words that each and every one of you have in your mind right now. And I really think every resident, wherever you live, deserves to be safe and feel safe. Baltimore County is committed to ensuring that every public safety resource we have is available for our communities. We are grateful for our police department and first responders for their swift response and continuing efforts to make sure this community is safe. I am confident that our police department will find out who committed this crime and hold them accountable. And I can't say that enough, hold them accountable, just as we have always done. We are also grateful for our community leaders who continue to tell us how important public safety is for their neighbors and families, and there's many community leaders in here. Together, we'll continue to do everything we can to make sure that Loch Raven and every other community continues to be a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you again for all of our partners for supporting this work and welcoming us here tonight. So thank you, and I'm sure that many of you have many questions, and we have our chief of police right here, and he's ready to answer. So, but not until we have a few other people say hi. Delegate Carl Jackson and Delegate Nick Allen, if you would like to come up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Delegate Carl Jackson. I just want to thank Councilman Mike Ertel for putting this together. It was such a tragedy to see what occurred here in this community. And as the state representative, one of the state representatives for this district, we stand ready to assist in any way we can from the state level. So again, thank you, Councilman Ertel. Thank you, Chief McCullough. And I'll turn it over to Delegate Nick Allen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Allen. I'm one of the delegates along with Delegate Jackson. We served Legislative District 8, which was County Executive Klaus Meyer's district for years and years and years. Again, I want to thank Councilman Ertel for putting this together, the pastor for hosting us, and all of you for coming out here. You know, your level of engagement, you know, despite the circumstances, really, you know, is typical, honestly, of our district and the community organizations that are in this district. I think now Congressman Olszewski said it best when he said, things like this are really out of character for this part of our community, and I think that's true. But I think, again, what is in character is this crowd tonight and everyone who showed up and everyone who's engaged and here to ask questions and demand answers from your leaders. So I want to thank you all for coming out, and we'll look forward to the rest of the evening. Thank you.
And now, Council. Sure. Chief McCullough, come on up.
Good evening. I want to first thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. To the shepherd of this house and to the members of this church, I want to first give honor to you, first of all, for having us here today. I want to acknowledge our esteemed elected officials, our county executive, and a friend to the entire community and to the police department. We're very proud of you and proud of your accomplishment. Want to acknowledge Councilman Izzy Patoka, who's here tonight. On December the 17th, we all know that something tragic occurred at Loch Raven and White Oak in the 8500 block of Loch Raven. Something that in my 39 years of being associated with this police department that I had never seen across this county. And of course, the men and women of the Baltimore County Police Department and the men and women of the Baltimore County Fire Department immediately responded to that incident and began to do what they always do, take care of the victims in that incident, take care of the community, take care of the problem. Since then, we've continued to investigate that incident and some other associated incidents, and we continue to work on that investigation. And while I can't reveal any detailed facts about that case because it's an ongoing investigation and we don't want to compromise that investigation, what I can say is that we've made significant progress. We've gathered additional information, we gathered additional evidence in that investigation, and we continue to work on that. And I hope that in the near future that we can bring that investigation to a close. But until then, we continue to work on that investigation. What I can assure you is that since then, we've deployed additional resources, additional technology, in terms of the resources, personnel, both uniformed and undercover personnel throughout the community. We've made some other unassociated arrests that Captain Schroeder will talk to you about in a few minutes. And we could continue to monitor that situation and the entire community. And we've heard you as a community. We've listened to everything that you've said to us, and know that we are with you as a police department. I know many of you know that we're one of the first community policing agencies in this entire nation, and we've always prided ourselves on being connected to the community. We've always prided ourselves in working closely with our community, and we continue to try to work with you to keep you informed about what's been going on. We've tried to keep our elected officials in detail informed about what's been going on with this investigation and everything else that goes on with crime in Towson. We've deployed all of our resources. I can tell you, like I was telling somebody the other day, Towson has more cops than any other place in the entire county. And that's on any given day. And that's the cops that are working. I ain't talking about all the other cops and detectives that work right there on Joppa Road in headquarters. But we are very conscientious about crime. It's our job to enforce the ordinance and laws of this county and this state. And it's our responsibility to protect each and every one of you, your family, our way of life, and our economy here in Baltimore County. So with that said, I'm going to ask Captain Schroeder to talk about some specific incidents that we've been investigating and handled since that incident, and then I'll come back and we'll answer any questions that you may have. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out. It's great to see some familiar faces from the community and some new faces, so thank you for coming out. I'll start with an overview of the unfortunate mass shooting incident the chief touched on. On December 17th, officers were dispatched to the 8500 block of Loch Raven Boulevard, and it turned out we had multiple gunshot wound victims. One victim was unfortunately deceased, and several others were either injured in the car crash or struck by gunfire. Their original arriving officers on scene began to give patient care, including using department-supplied tourniquets, chest seals, and other first aid supplies to assist those that were injured. I think that is significant to point out. By the time the fire department arrived on scene, a lot of the initial first aid was done by the officers, and the paramedics indicated really all they had to do was transport the patients at that point. So all the initial life-saving steps were completed by the arriving officers relatively quickly and to a level that was acceptable to their paramedics, where they did not feel the need to do any more treatment. It was more of a transport scene. So the officers arrived, quickly identified where the victims were, rendered aid. The fire department and paramedics arrived, and there was a vehicle fire that was touching the building. So the fire department did their job and put the fire out. The paramedics transported our victims for us. Lieutenant Romanoff is with us. He's the shift commander for this incident, and I'd be remiss if I did not call out the good job that he did in handling this call. We had officers from every precinct responding. We locked down the crime scene, which was a significant area. And given the response and the amount of officers that were on scene, it can get very out of hand very quickly if you don't have strong leadership in place that's competent and capable of setting up our staging areas and making sure the police personnel understand what they're supposed to be doing and they're kept track of and organized. So thank you, Lieutenant Romanoff, for that. Not only did fellow officers from around the county respond, also my peers in the command staff started to arrive, and our investigators and our federal partners also arrived to start looking into this investigation and assisting. I want to call out, we had several officers, one being a relatively new officer, who heard from his coworkers of this incident, and he reached out to his supervisor and asked if he could come in on his day off to come and assist. Due to the large size of this incident, he was encouraged to come in. But I think that shows the level of commitment that these officers have, where they are seeing things in the community, even on their time off. That officer did come in, and he was here throughout the early hours of the morning, securing part of our crime scene. Just one example of the many examples of the dedicated officers within Towson that are providing police services. As the chief mentioned, homicide continues to investigate this, so information is relatively limited in what we could be released, but we do have an excellent clearance rate with our homicide detectives, well above the national average, and I am confident that there'll be solvability, and hopefully we can bring this to a closure. Unfortunately, on 12/19, we had another firearm discharging on Wycombe Way, not too far from here. It was about 2:20 in the afternoon. Officers were dispatched to shots fired in an apartment complex. We did have a member of our detective units that were in the area in response to some of the activity that had occurred previously. The description was given by dispatch. This said detective was able to observe individuals matching that description enter into an apartment. Patrol was able to get there, and we detained and eventually arrested several subjects as they were leaving that matched the description of the shooting. We were able to search the apartment that they left from, and we did recover several firearms. So when we say there's additional resources in the community, that's one example that we've seen benefit from, where we were able to arrest several subjects and recover firearms. That investigation is still ongoing. It was two groups that were discharging at each other. No one was struck, and we are still working on identifying the other parties involved, and I'm confident we'll be able to make some headway on that as well. That same evening, another resource that was put into the area is my Major Camelli, who's in charge of the Eastern Patrol Division, has a community action team assigned to her where she's able to deploy a group of officers and a sergeant to areas on the east side of the county that need additional police presence. These officers were dispatched to the Towson area, conducted high visibility patrol. One of the officers did a traffic stop in the solar system not too far from here. Ended up being a stolen car, ends up making an arrest, and inside that stolen car was an AK-47 style rifle that was recovered, and that subject was charged as well. At the precinct level, I have detectives assigned to me that handle a variety of crimes, anything from package thefts to street robberies, non-life-threatening assaults, and identity theft, a litany of crimes. Starting in November, we had several cases pop up of dirt bikes being stolen from individuals that were selling them on Facebook Marketplace, and they were meeting in the Putty Hill area, and the subject was stealing the dirt bikes during test drives or using force to steal the dirt bike. In one case, the suspect did display a firearm prior to stealing the bike. My detectives were able to identify this suspect, and last week we did a search warrant in the Putty Hill area, was able to charge the subject and did recover evidence associating him with these crimes. We did not recover the dirt bikes as of yet. We understand that's a nuisance crime for the community. Not only do you have the theft part, but you also have these dirt bikes being driven through the community and in the general area. So I was very happy that we were able to make an arrest in that and clear several cases. Some of the resources, in addition to what I've discussed, that's been deployed. I've received, as I'm sure the councilman has as well, complaints of narcotic sales and use in and around the Loch Raven corridor. We do have some technology pieces that have been deployed, as well as some resources that have been deployed to investigate and start staying on top of these cases. And those efforts are still ongoing. Again, kind of limited in how I can phrase that due to their investigative techniques that they're doing. But we have heard the complaints, and the department is putting resources into place to make some of those arrests as well. In immediate response, we also had our patrol officers highly visible in the area over the next weeks coming after the mass shooting incident that we had. And that's driven by Lieutenant Romanoff and the other lieutenants on the other shift. The officers themselves, realizing how impactful this has been on the community, also self-initiated traffic stops and other check locations in this area and throughout the community. We deployed additional resources in marked cars as well as unmarked cars on top of the regular patrol officers that are in the Loch Raven corridor. The Loch Raven business community has a BPI, which is a Business Patrol Initiative. I'm sorry for the acronym. You said don't use acronyms. I apologize, Major. Business Patrol Initiative Officer. Officer Mims is in charge of what we call the Four Corners area, which is Loch Raven, Putty Hill, and the shopping centers and businesses associated with that. That's his sole job, is to patrol those business parking lots and the surrounding communities. He's been a dedicated resource for those businesses in the community for several years now. He was actually one of the first officers on scene the night of the shooting and rendered care as well to the victims. We did an after-action review today where we met with the fire department personnel that was on scene to do a debrief of what went well and things that we need to improve on the police department side, the fire department side, and the other county agencies that touched this incident. Again, I can't be more complimentary to the officers who arrived and applied first aid, tourniquets, chest seals, other stop-the-bleed techniques that more likely than not led to less loss of life in this incident. The fire department was very complimentary of their application of first aid as well. One of my focus areas, and it might sound trivial, but before the police department cleared this scene of this mass shooting, I wanted to make sure that there was zero remnants of crime scene tape or anything else in the community that was still visible. The officers, after we processed the scene, spent a considerable amount of time returning the neighborhood back to normal. There's no reason to re-traumatize anybody the next day walking out to their car by seeing crime scene tape or other things left that indicate a crime occurred. I do want to call that out because, again, the officers spent a significant amount of time making sure we return the neighborhood back to the way it was. We have several technology projects still ongoing in the department, including installing stationary automated license plate readers that will undoubtedly assist in Towson and the rest of the county once that project is completed. Right now we have vehicle-mounted license plate readers, and at the completion of the stationary license plate reader project, we'll be able to capture vehicle tags, get real-time alerts if the car is stolen, if there's a missing person involved in it with that vehicle, or if there's a wanted person associated with that vehicle, and also capture historical data for potential investigations. Traffic stops and high visibility has been one of the priorities of the precinct since I've arrived a little over a year ago. And I'm proud to say that Towson, week by week, is one of the top performers with traffic stops across all the other 9 precincts in the county. It's a focus area that I explain to all the officers. It is not necessarily about the stop that you do. It's the 10, 15 cars that drive past that stop. It's a person who looks out their window and they see the police visible in their community. That's what we're trying to impact. We also want to deter the bad driving habits that we see. But more impactful, I feel, is the visibility that the community gets out of that. And that's one of our focus areas and will continue to be one of our focus areas through 2025. Another resource we have in the community is our Community Relations Center, where the outreach officers work out of. It's an off-site office in the Loch Raven community where we have members, where we're able to meet the community there. We're able to deploy our resources in a more timely manner during certain incidences into the Loch Raven community. I'd like to briefly go over some crime stats as of as of December 16th for Towson precinct overall. At the time, our robberies were down 7%. From the year before. Burglaries were down 11%. Our shoplifting did increase rather significantly at 29%. It's another focus area that we have in 2025, trying to drive that number down across the precinct. Our theft from autos, meaning somebody takes something out of your car, was down 23%, and our grand theft autos were down 28%, which is significant, and we've seen a large decrease in grand theft auto across the entire county. Those numbers, the grand theft autos was absolutely astronomical the previous couple years, so it's great to see that number come down as well. Want to cover some numbers, go over some of the details of the incident. At this point, if we're good, we'll open it for questions and comments for the group.
Folks, when you come up and you have a question, come up the center aisle, use this mic, if you could give your name and your community, and once you finish your question, you can leave it as the officers.
Once again, as the police chief, I really want to commend our police officers and our firefighters for the job that they did on December 17th. Once again, thank you, Lieutenant Romanoff, and your shift. Thank you. I also want to commend the community, and especially the business community, for the support that we've received in terms of the cooperation that we received from the community, members of the community and the business community right after this event. Many came forward offering to help in many ways and have been very helpful since. So once again, thank you to the members of the community also. That's it? Yes, sir.
Them. You know, challenge anybody when we leave, drive by the Giant, right? Are they going to find men loitering, trespassing, you know, harassing folks? The Oaks, same thing. I mean, there are places I actively avoid, and that list has grown in the 10 years I've lived here. So I didn't hear anybody address the elephant in the room, you know, the gang problem, the graffiti. You know, I see all the signs there. And so if we're not addressing these quality of life issues, you know, we're talking about the big issue. But I mean, I think the precursors are there, and I don't see, you know, to hear that we've got these resources, yet robberies, you know, just the other day on Pleasant Plains. So I don't know if that's discouraging. You know, you guys, I don't know what it is, but I'd like to hear what that plan is to address the quality of life, the traffic issues more so, because I live probably a quarter mile away, and I wouldn't walk here tonight. So appreciate the time and like to hear your responses.
Quality of life crimes are very nuanced. It ranges from anything from panhandling to loitering to some trespassing calls as well. Just last week, or maybe about 10 days ago now, I asked my outreach team to compile a guide for the patrol officers to address some of these quality of life issues, including panhandling, loitering, give the officers the updated language that we have to meet, the burden that we have to meet to prove that they can be charged with loitering, and also the language that we have to observe to deal with panhandling and some of these other crimes. So we see it, we know it's in the community. We're reminding the officers and empowering them with the information to address it in real time so that they're comfortable, that they are seeing and observing a crime occurring, and that they know the applicable state code or the county code to apply to those situations. And we will continue to work on all of the quality of life crimes throughout the precinct as well.
I just want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing. Does that work?
That's way too loud.
Too close. I don't know where to put it. All right, so anyway, I think I'm, all right, whatever, I'll hold it. We know, the giant shopping center where Crackpot has been a continual problem. We know that Yacona Mart, the car wash area has been a continual problem. The police have been there constantly. A lot of this stuff is like whack-a-mole. We arrest people and then somebody else pops up. It's a continual issue. We all know about it. We're working on it. One of the things, you brought up graffiti. One of the things that I've done personally, we are out, I have a person, and by the way, I wanted to talk a little bit about this, because the Loch Raven corridor has been just like other corridors. So my district, we're the 6th district here. I run from Charles Street all the way to Route 40, predominantly inside the Beltway. A lot of the communities have the same kind of issues. We're right on top of the city. Loch Raven in particular is a pathway out of the city to the Beltway. Often the crimes that are committed here are people that obviously do not live in Loch Raven Village, or even Hillendale a lot of times, but we do have our own homegrown criminals in the area. But a lot of times it's pass-through crime. I think when things come out, we'll find that a lot of the suspects and even victims were not people from those immediate neighborhoods. One of the things that we're trying to do quality of life-wise is, and this has nothing to do with crime, but everybody knows if you've spent any time on Loch Raven Boulevard, there's shopping carts, there's graffiti, trash. I actually have a person that I brought on right after I got elected. I call him my field director. He actually is a retired county firefighter who was at Hillendale for years. He's out cleaning up litter, picking carts off of the Loch Raven, Goucher, Putty Hill, wherever they are. He has a whole route that in fact, we have like a Babcock station back here where we put carts and he picks them up. But along those lines, we are painting over graffiti. We're doing everything we can to make sure that this area is not comfortable for people that don't want to do good here. I've spent a lot of time on this corridor. I grew up in Hamilton in the city, kind of watched as the city slowly went downhill. One of the reasons why I ran for office was to deal with some of the quality of life things that we have going on in Baltimore County. The one thing I can tell you is our elected officials, my colleague, and I forgot to introduce him earlier, Izzy Patoka, he and I mirror each other. We meet at Charles Street. He runs from Charles Street over to the edge of the city and down the side to Woodlawn. I run the other way down to Hazelwood, and we deal with a lot of the same kind of issues. We all on the council, our county exec is well aware of issues that have been happening in the county, but our police force is serious as a heart attack about crime. And we also have a state's attorney in Scott Schellenberger who I think I neglected to invite tonight, but Scott often shows up to town hall meetings like this to talk about what they do at the state's attorney's office because they prosecute crime in Baltimore. If you do a crime in Baltimore County, you are most likely going to get caught. Almost always. We have one of the highest clearance rates, I think, in the country, in the nation, and we also prosecute those crimes. People often ask me, and I was at the Loch Raven Village board meeting last week, and a lot of people there were saying, you know, it seems to me that Towson, Loch Raven, this area has gotten more dangerous, that it's not the same as it used to be. I think all of us naturally feel that way. A lot of the crime we see is actually, I don't know about stagnant, but when we have incidents like this where a bunch of people get shot in a car, it's not only shocking, but it's one of those things where you look at it and go, is this the right place for me to be? You know, do I need to move to greener pastures? We are dealing with this all over the metro area. It happens in Pikesville, it happens in Berry Hall, it happens in Columbia, in Howard County. That's not going to make anybody feel better, but crime is everywhere. Also, because of social media, it's in our face all the time. The 80s, I think, actually was one of the worst periods of crime in the country's history. We had more murders back in the 80s, maybe not necessarily in Baltimore County, but in the 80s, you had to actually get the Sun paper or the News American and go to the Metro section and read about it, or it might have been on the 11 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news. But now it's in your face every minute of the day. If you pick up your phone, it's in your face. Doesn't mean that that's better or worse, but you never get a break. And when we live in an area where we're close to and again, I'm not blaming the city, but when we live in an area that's more urban, where we're more dense in that matter, we're going to have, just for the matter of the amount of people that are around, we tend to have a little more crime. Is it any more dangerous than it used to be? Maybe, but I don't really think so. But it's easy, as you say, when you're walking down the street and there's, a bunch of kids on the corner that don't look, or grown men, and I've been at the Giant shopping center where you walk in, I'm going to the Crack Pot to, because my wife ran out of White Claws or something at 10, I get the call on my way home from hey, you don't want to get some White Claws, do you? And, I go to Crack Pot and it's, it can be a little dicey up there at times. I can tell you we are doing everything possible. No one is sitting around saying, oh, it's fine. And I feel like sometimes, and this is just me pontificating, but I often feel when when the city often will say, well, nobody got murdered, so it's okay. That attitude is not what we get in Baltimore County. And I'm not saying the city necessarily has that attitude, but you feel that way sometimes, that if it's not very serious, that we're not going to do anything about it. We've had a couple incidents recently where I'm even shocked sometimes, where Captain Schroeder will call me and say, hey, we made an arrest on that, the bar fight that we had in Towson. That, really? You guys, you guys tracked them down and found them? Yeah, and that's what we do in Baltimore County. So I know a lot of people come to these. We've got the media here. When we're in the middle of a big investigation, I think everybody up here would like to tell you more about what is going on with that incident. But because because they're still actually arresting people and tracking down leads, there's only so much we can tell you. But like I said, we know some of these hotspot areas. We are on them. They can be difficult problems. You know, one of the issues with the Giant is they really should have security there. They have not really been receptive. I've been on the owners there to get security because the police, you know, that's not their job to be security at Giant, but the police are by there constantly. So I don't know if others have questions. I'm sure there are other questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Good evening.
Yeah.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anita Bush. I'm a representative from the Ridgely Community Association. I'm not sure if Ms. Barbara Lewis is here, the president. Kind of been communicating with her. Yeah, I have major concerns similar to this gentleman over here. I try to take daily walks in the morning, and I'm gravely concerned at the Food Mart. I think it's a liquor store off of White Oak. It's very concerning. As you mentioned, these are not kids, these are adults, and they stand there. And I commend the police officers because I've seen them there since this incident happened a lot. However, I even spoke to a police officer while they were standing across the street, that bowl, not even moving. So it's very concerning in general, and I've been in the neighborhood for a while. I've seen it go from one extreme to the other. To your point, I think, Councilman, it's all over. If you live on the earth, it's there. We might not want to accept that, but it's there. Crime is everywhere. I'm concerned where my investment is, which is my property. And so the Ridgely Association is having their meeting on January the 30th. Again, if Ms. Barbara Lewis is here, the president, not sure. I do have a representative from my area, and I apologize because I did walk around and tell a number of people. Unfortunately, just put it to my mind and not my heart, a lot's going on. I gave them the wrong information, the wrong church. So it's about 15 or so that were going to come from the community association. So I apologize with them, and hopefully some representatives come to our meeting on January the 30th at 6:30. I'm not sure again where it's going to be located, but this is the Ridgely Community Association. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Sunny Hendley. I live here in Nettishaw. My question is, it's not a question, it's a comment. I've had to call 911 a few times. They never answer. They do call back. It's like 20, 25 minutes later. If my husband's having a heart attack, that's not acceptable. It wasn't that. One time over at the Oaks, I'm coming down Loch Raven, and there were a bunch, I'll call them kids because I'm old. They were destroying plants outside of a business on a Muskie and Loch Raven. I wanted to call it in because it looked nice and they were destroying them. Got the call back probably 20 minutes later. Did you call? Yes, I did. And I've done that a few times. Did it here when somebody was breaking into cars going up the road. Couldn't be bothered. So, is 911 going to get a little better? Are they going to get more help? Yeah, I'm concerned about that.
So,
If you want, Councilman, what we'll do is get your information and get some additional information because unlike some places, some people think that 911 comes under the police department or fire department, and in Baltimore County, they come to the Office of Budget and Finance, so they don't work for me. What I will tell you is that I know when you call 911, sometimes it can be frustrating because they ask you a lot of questions, but it doesn't mean that they're not starting someone, especially in an emergency situation. They're always starting somebody towards your location if there's an emergency going on. For routine kinds of calls, they typically take the information and they dispatch it in terms of priority and what's going on. So, but we will get your information and we'll talk to you in great detail about that. I just want to point out to everyone, there's a group of police officers in the room right now, and these are our officers that responded that day to the incident. They're your officers. These are the officers that patrol your community. And many times I share with Colonel Kelly, who's standing to my right, and even with their shift commander sometimes. Many times I'm out and I'm just riding around and I'm listening to the radio. And I've even shared with them at their roll call that they're the best generation of cops in the history of this department, because no other generation had to do the things that they have to do these days with all the requirements, all the technology that they have to use, all of the things that are expected of them, not only from the community, but even from us as management, all the things that we put on them. Yet, they keep showing up every day, serving their community, serving this community. So I commend them, and I'm sure we all want to say to you guys that we appreciate everything that you do. I'm always amazed by the precision in which they respond to stuff. Myself and my chief of staff, we many times watch them, and it's amazing just to watch them work. And it speaks to the investment that you all have as taxpayers in this police department, the training that they receive, the quality equipment and everything that your tax dollars pay for. So to you as a community, we thank you, and we really appreciate you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Kim Stansberry. I've been in this community 40 years. Thank you, all of you. You have our appreciation. But the people in this community, they're nervous. We hear the helicopters every single night, it seems. Searchlights going on. We hear the sirens. Like you said, it's on Facebook, but we see it. Giant is my shopping center. That's where I've been shopping for 40 years. To go through the parking lot and have 2 or 3 people come up to you, and it's one story after another, and sometimes it's like, I will not go out after dark to the shopping center. But coming home, you all know I go to a lot of these meetings, sometimes across the county. When I come home, I see the cars on Goucher Boulevard, on Loch Raven, on Joppa Road. They're swerving in and out. They have no lights on, and there's really nothing you can do. Sometimes you don't even see them. But if they are driving that fast with no lights, they don't want to be seen. So what can we do as a community to ease the fears of the people that live around us? You know, these are people that are hardworking, that have put everything they have, their lives are here, their children have gone to school here. My kids have gone to school here, we go to church here. We use the playgrounds, but we're not taking our kids there anymore. I go by the playgrounds, most people will not let their kids go onto the playground unless you have a large group of parents that are involved that will stand there and watch the kids. Now, I don't want our kids to grow up in fear, but I want our communities safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Hi, I'm Julie. I live on Hardwick in Nettishaw. We've talked a lot about the Giants. I don't think it's just the Giants. Over the past year, you see so many changes, and the soft changes that the first gentleman brought up about going to the Weiss now and having extra guard things when you come in so people don't steal. I was at the Alta when 2 men came in and wiped out a display, which I thought those were things you only saw on Facebook. There is a panhandle woman who I think everyone knows. If they don't see that woman over there, you think, wow, where is she today? She has been there for at least 5 years, asking for money every single time you come out of one of the stores over at wherever the Weiss is and the Sprouts, over in those shopping centers. So it is the soft things that I think all the residents see, added security guards, lots of theft that are indicators to bigger things. And what I'm not hearing are specific strategies of what are we going to do to help that get changed. Thank you.
I'm getting ready to be me for a little bit, and my colonel will probably grab me. I'm an old school police officer. So, the reality is that unfortunately in our society, I think when we all check ourselves and check our society, we've kind of let things erode, and there's some things that we've accepted and allowed to occur. Quite candidly, when it comes to, we've come out of COVID, and there's things that we allowed to happen during COVID, things that we became lax about in our society. One of the biggest things we've become lax about is allowing theft to occur, and we do nothing about it. And a lot of businesses allow it to occur because they don't want to incur the liability of actually trying to apprehend or to deal with the thieves. So when you allow theft to occur and there's no consequences, and that's for anything in our society, when there's no consequences for your actions, what's to prevent you from doing it again? And the problem is that we've allowed these things to happen and there's no consequences for it. Businesses allow people to come in to shoplift. Shoplifting turns into robbery, and these things happen. And then many times, you get a room full of police officers, and we'll all tell you that many times these people don't report these things. And then when they finally report it, then it's a big problem. It's gotten really bad, and then it's, what is the police doing about it? And many times they're not even telling us, or even when we try to get suspect information or get cooperation from some, there's no cooperation. But they want us to do something about it. We're here to help. We tout the fact, and we stand in this room and tell you how often we clear crimes. There are crimes that we know about. But many times there's crimes that occur that we don't know about. We want to know about them. We want to do something about them. What I will tell you is, you talk about the driving and things like that. They'll tell you I talk about it every day. Nothing irritates me more than people who aggressively drive, people that speed. And one of the things you'll see in 2025 from the Baltimore County Police Department, and we did a good job in 2024 at increasing our traffic stops and our presence, but you're going to see us going after these aggressive drivers and a lot of the driving problems that you see. I have this pet peeve with all these people just driving around with Virginia tags on. These guys say, see, there's accountability in the police department, because they tell you I have nothing better to do than to come to work every day and to get on them about all of these problems that we see. And we're going to be dealing with those things. And what I can tell you is, from the commitment that we get from our state delegation, they are absolutely tremendous partners with us when it comes to getting laws passed and addressing these issues. And I can tell you, as a police chief, they listen to me, and they definitely talk to me about the problems that they see. So we will be addressing the aggressive driving, the drug dealing, all of these things. Once again, we're in a time where actually our police department's a little short, not as short as most. We're doing great in comparison to the rest of the agencies in this state and in this region. But whether it's the medical field, whether it's education, or whether it's law enforcement or public safety with fire corrections, we're all living in a time where it's challenging in terms of fully staffing anywhere. So in Baltimore County, it's not an excuse, we're doing our very best with the resources that we have. And like I said, we have these tremendous young men and young women that are standing here today, that are out there every day doing a job. And I saw Officer Mims, who walked in, who's your Business Patrol Initiative officer also for this area. He's back there in the back. But we're doing everything that we can We can always do more. We try to leverage all of our resources, and we're even utilizing your tax dollars to even bring more resources and more technology to the community really soon to even be able to do more. And you'll see those results and those things in the future. So, yes, ma'am.
My name is Stacy Keller. I live in the neighborhood here. And I agree with everything that you said. I feel the same way when I go shopping as well. And as a single woman living here, when I hear the helicopters, when I see the searchlights, when I hear the police cars, it's great that you guys are visible. And I mean, that gives me a little bit of hope that the neighborhood is going to get back to where it used to be. But as a single woman, I find it very intimidating to go out. I host card night on Fridays, and I go out and I walk everyone to their car, and I make sure, because you just never know. And unfortunately, I don't feel safe and secure like we should. Even as much as 2 years ago, I felt safer 2 years ago than I feel now. So, you know, it's even made me think, do I want to move? I've only been here 4 years, but I'm looking at other places, you know, thinking, do I want to move? Is this community going down? Like, you know, what do I do? That's why I'm here tonight. I want to hear, you know, more about how you're being active, and I do see the police in the area. So, but, you know, just their presence, you know, is a little bit, what's the word? I'm nervous. I don't like talking in public. Well, intimidating.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll say first of all, and I even get phone calls, believe it or not, in the middle of the night, people text me about the helicopter. So my first response to the helicopter is the helicopter is usually up just simply patrolling. So if you hear the helicopter fly over your house, it flies over my house, it's usually just flying. They're on their routine patrol. They have Homeland Security checks. They patrol just like the police officers do. So simply because a helicopter is flying over your house doesn't mean that something's necessarily going on. Many times the helicopter's backing up the officers that might be on the traffic stop or on a call for service. The thing is, everything isn't always criminal. Sometimes there could be a criminal incident. They could be backing them up. But many times we get a lot of calls for missing children, missing adults. You know, so we get a lot of missing persons calls, and they come out for that and they search the area for those people. So.
You know, these helicopters, they are disrupting, intimidating, and noisy. Why can't we use drones instead of these helicopters?
Well, just to let you know, our helicopters are more effective in terms of searching because we have something called FLIR. It's an infrared system that's on the helicopter to help us locate people and things. We do have a drone program, and we do have drones, and we are utilizing drones. We're in the process. I talked about technology coming to the area. So one of the things we're working on right now under our Axon contract, and that's the contract that we utilize for our body-worn camera and a lot of other technology, but we're currently working, and we're getting, actually it's going to start February 1 in terms of the building of the project. We're bringing a drone as first responder program, and it's starting right here in Towson. So that means that we'll have drones that will launch from our public safety building, our police headquarters in Towson, and they will have the ability to respond to calls in this entire area. So that's just one of the technology programs that we're bringing to the Towson area.
Hi, my name's Kathy. I've lived in this village for 15 years as a homeowner. I hear what everyone is saying. I see a lot of things on Facebook, and 99% of the time I don't respond. A lot of things what you were saying about the helicopter is very true. Every time you hear it, I don't pay it any mind anymore. It doesn't affect me from sleeping or doing my day-to-day. However, what happened December was very sad. I was in bed sleeping. My phone started ringing like Christmas. I wanted to make sure I was okay, my son was okay, etc. We were fine. Everybody was home. However, I think as much as crime has increased in our area, as well as other areas throughout the state, it's more of a social economic problem, and that's why it's everywhere, okay? My child lived in the Timonium area, and her car was stolen twice, okay? That's not Towson, okay? So it's happening everywhere, and then we all need to realize that. I also believe that not a police issue, but there need to be more resources for children. You know, my daughter is 30, my son is 17, and there's not many things at 17, 15, 16 that he can't do that I'm not investing a lot of money into, okay? The rec center is sitting there empty. You know, it needs to be a viable rec. It could be services in there to help the community. Many people don't have food, they don't have resources. I don't know if anybody's checking their BG&E, but I think mine is on the terms of about 3-something this month alone. Okay, so you say that crime is up, petty theft is up, these things are up. Yes, but many people don't know where their next meal and things are coming from, which again has become a police problem. I'm not making those excuses, but many people just don't have resources or know what to do. Okay, and I think that is the bigger problem. And also, you know, any of you single ladies or sitting at home and you want to sit in your car for 5 minutes, stop doing that in front of your house. Because my daughter was sitting in front of my house and somebody tried to car her doorknob while she was sitting in it. You know, her windows was tinted and they never saw her. You know, but it's many things that we can do as a community. I see more talk about people having their dog outside and it's cold than the more talk about if your neighbor has food, you know, in their cabinet. So we need to be more human and stop talking about how it was a long time ago. I think people were more caring than what they are now about other people. Yes, I don't want to be scary or what have you going to the grocery store and things like that, but you know, I think running is not going to solve your problem. Okay, changing communities is not going to solve the problem. That people need to come together and, you know, try to fix the issue and maybe even get back to the schools, putting more services in the school. Teach these kids trades, because if not, if you don't teach these kids trades and services they can make money on their own, they're going to be the next 30, 40-year-olds standing in front of Giant, you know, panhandling because they don't know what to do. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Ma'am, one thing, you made a good point about one of the things that we're doing in the county, and Delegate Jackson has been a big proponent of this. We're actually working on potentially rebuilding the rec center. We've built 2 what we call RAC centers in the county, and this was courtesy of the former county executive, who's now our Congressman, Johnny Oshefsky. We put one in Middle River. Actually, I mean, I'm really fortunate. They both ended up in my district. One of them was really the work of Delegate Jackson. We have one in Rosedale, in the Hazelwood area. We built a skateboard park there as well. But then in Middle River, we have one, it's called the Middle River RAC Center. And these are centers that are kind of like PAL centers on steroids, in the sense that they're for everyone, they're not just for kids. One of the things that we know in Baltimore County, and this is everywhere, but in our county alone, we have got to do more than we've ever had to do before. I often feel like when I came into office, I felt like a lot of things we were still back in 1956. We've got to touch people I know that sounds a little sick. But we've got to touch people in ways that we've never had to touch them before. We have to do more programming for younger kids. I'd like to see more go-away camps. We have some money that's coming in to the county. It's called the cannabis money. So when we legalized recreational marijuana, we get a percentage of those dollars from sales tax back to the county, and we're getting about $800,000 per quarter. I want to see some of that money used to do go-away camps for kids, programs for kids. I'd even like to see some kind of pilot program that we could do where we can sentence kids who are starting out to offend, where we put them in some kind of camp-like atmosphere where we can try to inspire them not to be criminals and be productive citizens. We definitely have a gap that we're seeing. We have a lot of kids that are graduating high school, can't do basic math or reading. The school system, our school board president our 6th district school board representative, Christine Pumphrey's in the back. We saw our schools improve this year for the first time in a long time. We have more 5-star schools than we've ever had in the county. We actually had the #1 elementary school. I'm really proud of this. We had the #1 elementary school in the state in Rogers Forge Elementary, but on the east side of my district, McCormick Elementary, we have an elementary school there that has struggled over the years. They've become what's called a community school, which they're still a public school, but they have more resources than they've had in the past. They had an absenteeism rate of 47% of their kids were missing more than, I forget the actual stat, it's like 15 days a quarter or something. And we reduced that, McCormick was able to reduce that from 47% to 9%. So there's a lot of things going on. One of the things that the chief talked about, COVID has really set society back, and it's not just Baltimore County. We're seeing crazy stuff. Harford County, Anne Arundel, my day job that's been severely compromised by my council job is in Howard County. Howard County is seeing crime like they've never seen before, and they're worried. And Howard County to me was like Canada, like nothing ever happened down there. I mean, they had little pockets of crime, but we're seeing it everywhere. The police are on top of it. Law enforcement is one of the toughest professions to go in. You guys, we love the fact that you're in law enforcement, that you've decided on this very tough profession. If you've ever seen some of the body cam footage that some of the abuse that the officers have to take, I don't know why anybody goes into law enforcement these days, but thank God they do, because we need them desperately. But there's a lot of things that we need to deal with. We have a school system that, like I said, we're trying to do more. I've seen a lot of really heartening things where we're moving in the right direction. And like I said, I grew up in Baltimore. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. And I don't want to sit here and pontificate forever, but know that we are working on things. If you see things that you want us to know about, if you have, like I said, anything from shopping carts to graffiti to something dumped in your alley to constant crime issues, let our office know so we can ring the bell for you. I know Carl and Nick, Councilman Patoka, who is our last chair. I'm actually the chair of the council as of January 1, but Izzy was was the past immediate chair. We are working hard. It never seems like we can work hard enough lately, because it's just, I mean, the first couple weeks of December, it was like, what's going to happen next? It's just, and it was all over the district. It wasn't just here in Loch Raven. We were having, we've had issues in downtown Towson. But things are, we are seeing an improvement. I know, again, we're not here to, blow smoke. But there's definitely things that we're working on, a lot of different things. There's a lot of technology where we're able to monitor. There's a lot of big brother stuff going on in law enforcement. So it's going to be tougher and tougher to commit crimes as time goes on because everybody knows where you are and where you've been. We can only hope that things get better, but know again that we're listening. If you need to tell us stuff, one of the things I've been working on, we've had some problems with on Taylor Avenue, the hookah lounge. Bulla Hookah Lounge, my favorite hookah lounge, and Maria's. I think Mr. Paradise is here, who I worked on some legislation for hookah lounges. We've had a lot of liquor store issues. You name it, we're getting it, and we're working on it. So, like I said, I wish I could tell you tonight that everything's solved, but we're working hard. Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening. My name's James from Lochraven Manor, right off of Joppa Road. I've seen a lot of redevelopment on Joppa Road over the years, and I've been concerned. It's kind of holding steady for me. I've been okay. I've been here for 25 years. Every time there's one of these meetings, we talk about a lot of resources. But I need a piece of paper in my hand that I can carry around or to be able to memorize a number. Instead of calling 911 or 811, is there any other number that, like, where do we dispatch out of? Are these patrolmen coming from Parkville or are they coming from Towson? Can we call the police station directly and say, you know, I just walked into the Giant. There's a whole bunch of people loitering. Can I get a car there in the next 10 minutes so while I finish shopping and I come outside and there's a car there, possibly harassing them and to hopefully get them out of there. At same other places where if there's someone panhandling in the gas stations and stuff like that, that we could discreetly call instead of tying up that resource in 911 where someone's getting a heart attack or a fire or there's actually really a robbery going on. I mean, y'all talk about those resources. Is there a pamphlet here when we leave, or do we have cards that we can be giving out that we can talk to the captain or something like that?
Well, I'll tell you, the captain's here. We'll make it a point to get with you one-on-one when we leave here, but I will always tell you that it's better to call 911. Everything in Baltimore County goes through 911. They will prioritize it. And the one thing I can tell you, if you call 911, it's documented. So many times we'll get people who I'll use me as they'll tell me they called 911 about something, or they've made complaints about things. Well, if you make a complaint about something in this county, it's documented. It's in the system, so we can go there. So it's important to call 911. Now, once again, like I said earlier when we started this meeting, some things get prioritized depending on what they are. We also, in Towson and in Parkville, both those precincts have a community outreach team. Those teams work on community projects and issues. We also have a youth and community resources section at our headquarters, and we have personnel there that also deal with some of the community problems and work with some of the problems that concern the youth in our community. But always call 911 first. We'll make sure that anybody is interested, we'll give you the number to the precinct. I know the Towson precinct's 410-887-2361. Is it 5901 for, what's Parkville? What's Parkville? Yeah, and it's 410-887-5310 for the Parkville station. But now, if you have an issue, if there's an emergency, if you see something suspicious, no matter what it is, just call 911. And that ensures that it gets into the queue, it gets into the system, and our officers can respond appropriately to it, but it also documents your complaint so that we can not only respond to it, but if it requires additional follow-up. And also, we depend on those calls for service for us to be able to investigate things, especially if you have a location where you might be a chronic problem. I will tell you, I've done it before as an investigator in my career. I will not hesitate to use a padlock law. If there's a problem business, I won't hesitate to do whatever we have to do to threaten to shut it down, or to actually go to court and shut it down if it's a problematic location in this county.
Hi, my name's Don Paradise, and I've lived in this neighborhood for 44 years. I bought a house right off of Taylor and Oakley in 1980, and I think the last time I went to a community association meeting was for to become a cop, a citizen on patrol. And my neighbors, they took shifts and they went over the neighborhood, and lights on their cars, but I haven't seen that in years. But the main reason I came here tonight is to meet and thank Mike Ertl. The problem I was trying to get rid of was the Beulah Hookah Lounge on Taylor Avenue. And my neighbors, we lived behind the place, they played their music like till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've just been calling every agency, permits and police and just every agency, and I got in touch with Mike Earl's office and Heather, and I don't know, within so many months with the Baltimore County attorneys, they enacted legislation for the hookah bars, which they never had before. So I heard it's crazy in Baltimore County. They had, in Towson, they had problems. August 5th, the one on Taylor Avenue, there was a shooting, and they asked them to trace the bullets. But it's just been a problem. Noise and parking. A couple times there's been like 100 cars parked all over Taylor Avenue, Bonaire, Goodview, and that was a problem. But Mike, got with the county attorneys. They made legislation which would be hard for these kind of businesses. They're really in the wrong place. I mean, it's great that these young people have a place to go, but a nightclub, they don't start until 10:30 at night. When I heard just social media, they just 25 cars within 10 minutes are parked all along Taylor and all the parking places. But yeah, I'd like to thank Mike Ertl. He got legislation, and I'm looking forward to for them to force this legislation on them and make them go to where there's parking and no problems. But they're in a neighborhood spot where it's just a nuisance. So like every weekend I gotta put a sound machine on before I even go to bed, just to drown out the noise. But just came here to thank Mike Ertl and Heather. So I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Don, and we're working on it.
Sir, if I could have half a second, sir, in reference to his comment. So Councilman Ertel was kind enough to get some additional legislation passed so we could put a serious fine to some of the regulations that they were bypassing. With that, my midnight shift has been checking both Maria's and that hookah lounge routinely. We have worked with code enforcement to ensure that they are fines, and it's an ongoing issue for us that we are aware of and we're monitoring so that we can get code enforcement to continue to fine them until we see some corrective behavior out of the business. So it is important legislation. The fine before, I think, was too low. It made sense for them to stay open and just eat the fine. Now there's some teeth to it that I think we can see some progress with it. So thank you, Councilman.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I've been walking this microphone around. Maybe I'll say a couple words. My name is Bill Blair. I lived over on Glen Keith here for 40 years, and I can't think of a time when our community association did not need volunteers and was begging for people to pay their dues. There's a pathetic low payment rate for dues in our community association. Nettishaw, right over here, same thing, lots of problems. It's not all on the police, folks. Get involved with your community association. If you can't volunteer time, support them. Pay your dues. Anything else?
Just hold that. Another thing we have in Towson, we have a group called PCRC, the Police Community Relations Council. That's also something you can get involved in. Wesley from PCRC is here tonight, but they deal with all things police related and often have a good dialogue about crime in the area, and they have kind of a direct pipeline. The police captain's usually at the meeting, or Major Camelli often, or lieutenant. So, Wesley, did you want to say a few words, or? Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Wesley Wood. I'm the Assistant Director of the Precinct 6 Towson Police and Community Relations Council. We have monthly meetings open to the public. Not every single month in the year. We do break for the summer and December. But we have a meeting coming up. It's always on the fourth Tuesday of the month. So January 28th at 7 p.m. We meet at Trinity Episcopal Church in the Memorial Hall. That's 120 Allegheny Avenue. This is also in the, I believe, the police website. Look under police and Community Relations Councils. They have it marked in there. But every meeting we have the captain available to answer questions. He will update on crime, anything that's going on. The new technology, he'll update us on that. The license plate readers, he'll let us know when they're online. We also have guest speakers. This month we have a supervisor of the 911 center is going to come. She'll have a PowerPoint, but she'll be able to answer any question you might have about how the 911 center operates if you have complaints about that. So I welcome anybody to come. Once you come, we have you sign in. If you have an email address, we'll put you on a email tree and invite you to the upcoming meetings. You'll know what's happening. And this has been a great meeting here tonight. It's a little hard I try to get word about my organization. We are throughout the county, but Towson is an important area. So anything happening in Precinct 6, Towson, we talk about it in our neighborhood. So I thank you very much.
And if you signed up tonight, we'll send out the PCRC information as well. Another thing I wanted to touch on, we heard for many years in Baltimore City that they basically stopped prosecuting a lot of crime down there. And those circumstances affect us because there's no wall at the city line that, and often what we see with criminals in general, I don't know why I'm looking at you, for confirmation. Often what we see is it's the same, 200 people recommitting, re-victimizing people. And a lot of what we've had over the last bunch of years were people that should have been in jail who weren't. And I can tell you in the city, another bright spot is Ivan Bates, the new prosecutor in the city, is very serious about putting people away, and some of his efforts are starting to come to fruition. But the state's attorney's office in the city was dysfunctional for a long time. One of the other things we're seeing is there's a lot more cooperation between Baltimore County and Baltimore City again, because we've always had cooperation over the years. but there was a period of time where they just stopped communicating. Scott Schellenberger and Ivan Bates, you'll see them at an event, a city-county event, and they'll often say, you know, they joke that they have each other on speed dial. And what a lot of times they'll do is somebody gets arrested here in the county or vice versa in the city, and they'll confer to say, you know, we've got a case here in Baltimore County for armed robbery. They have them in the city for murder maybe, but they don't have as good a case on them. Well, we could potentially put the person away for 15 years in the county for the armed robbery, which we have a good case on, so we might prosecute it. Or vice versa, the city has a better case, and Scott will say, well, why don't you take it since you have an ironclad case. So we're starting to see the fruition of some of that stuff, but a lot of the crime we've seen in the last bunch of years is sometimes the same old people committing, and a lot of times it's not necessarily violent crime, but it's nuisance crime, it's shoplifting, you know, raiding stores, you know, they get away with it, they just keep doing it. So that, I think some of that is getting better, but again, we've got a lot of work to do, and like I said, no one's here trying to tell you that the world is perfect and that we can go back to 1956. And probably even in 1956 they were complaining about crime, but probably not to the extent we have it now. But with that, are there any more questions? I know that no one's going to leave here necessarily tonight thinking, like I said, that everything's rosy, but just know that our men and women in blue are working hard for us. Our electeds are working hard at both the state and the county level, and no one is taking this as if this should be business as usual, the way things have been. Yes, sir. Here, I'll bring you the mic.
Mark Caggiano, let's see, live in Lock Hill community.
Right down.
Yeah, and I know tonight's been a lot about law enforcement and stopping crime and people's fears, but I just want to kind of add to what the woman here said, I forget your name, Kathy said, and that maybe end on a more positive, well, not more positive, but a good outlook that I was a neuroscientist for 38 years. I retired about a year ago. The scientific journals are rife with solutions to socioeconomic problems, to criminal problems, to almost everything we talk with here. Our tax money goes to funding all this research, but when it comes to applying it, people don't want their tax money going to that. And a lot of this research is directed at the source. And we talked a little bit, touched about that tonight too. But, I mean, finding short-term solutions to these problems, I think, is kind of myopic, and go to where the source is, and I'm telling you, the research has been done and it's there. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Councilman, before we leave, I want to allow Colonel Kelly just to comment a little bit, because Colonel Kelly is the bureau chief. He's in charge of the entire county and all the patrol officers, and I want you to know that there is accountability every day in the police department, and it starts with me, but daily he assures that there's accountability for everything that goes on across the entire enterprise. I'm also going to ask him to comment about our Community Partnership Academy, also that's run out of his bureau, and Sergeant that participates in that, she's sitting in the back there.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Kelly. I'm the Chief of Operations for the Police Department. I'm fiddling with my phone here because just today, to speak to your point, we just took delivery, I know it's kind of hard to see, of a brand-new mobile community center that we were able to purchase about a year and a half ago through ARPA funding, American Rescue Plan Act funding. This is a 27-foot trailer. Have you ever seen a gaming trailer for kids and youth? It's got basketball, it's got, I can't remember if we chose Xbox or PlayStation 5, but one of those inside. It's so new, we took delivery of it this afternoon. The major sent me these pictures, so it hasn't been released yet. So this is something that we're doing to invest and engage in the youth that we can deploy and bring out to the community at events. It can be used for multi-purposes for meetings. It's got technology in it. It's got televisions. It's got basketball games, a speed game. We do a lot of things to engage with young people with this trailer that we can take it around. So literally, we just took delivery of it today, so I'm proud to speak about that. Some of the things that we talk about, the plan, I know Mr. Radomski, I think he left. So one of the things we do is, you see the police officers that were over here, just take a good look at them. Did you see all that stuff, blinking stuff and all that equipment? Now the chief can tell you when he came out of the academy, it was a lot different. You had a wheel gun, a stick, and a pair of handcuffs, right? So technology, data, all of that is the way that we are going. And we are proud to announce we have started a real-time information center, which is why it's important to call 911. That data goes directly to our 911 center. We can monitor that immediately. We deploy resources on the fly if we need to, if we see an uptick in a certain area. We've brought back and reconstituted our community action team on the east side where the major has the flexibility. This is like an action team. They really specialize in problem solving. We have a problem with, let's say, auto thefts. Well, they may do bike patrol, they may do plainclothes patrol, we can send them a problem and they solve it. They get to the root cause of the problem. So we measure that stuff every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. Up at headquarters here at the Public Safety Building, we hold a meeting with every single commander all across the county. It's called ComStat. It originated in 1994 in New York. We have adopted that method. We look at the data for what's going on in that precinct. Captain Schroeder reports every week what is going on in Towson, his entire precinct, where we are in investigations, where we've seen an uptick in calls, how many arrests we've made, some of the good work that they're doing, some areas that we need to do better. And based upon that information, we have our detectives in the room, we share, exchange ideas, and there's a cadence of accountability to it also. So if they're not solving the problems, Captain's got to do a little bit more work. But I can tell you, Precinct 6, we can sit here all day and quote numbers and stats, and they are accurate, but if the community does not feel safe, or the perception is, then we need to do something about it, and we are. Just because you may not see a police car, it doesn't mean that we're not there. We have undercover. It depends what problem we're trying to solve, you know, so we're there. I worked for years on the midnight shift, and I love the idea of we may have all this stuff happening in the community during the midnight shift, and we'll go in and make arrests and all this stuff happening, and the citizens were sound asleep, had no idea we were there. To me, that was good service. You can stay in your home, sleep. Captain Schroeder mentioned about this hellacious crime scene. 5 blocks, crime scene tape. I can tell you, I drove by the following morning to make sure it was cleaned up, and just as he said it was, we did not want kids walking to school the next morning, seeing the remnants of what happened. It was important to us to make sure it was cleaned up. I can tell you his folks cleaned up trash that was there before the crime. So what we do is we invest in the real-time information center is really going to be a game changer in law enforcement. It's going to allow us to monitor actively what's going on, to respond and deploy resources, and to more, I guess, specialize in what's going on in each community and deliver directly to each community. That's exciting. None of that would be possible. None of that equipment on these officers would be possible if it wasn't for the support of our administration, of our council, and ultimately you, our taxpayers. A lot of conversation about the helicopter. I can tell you, I deal with my colleagues and other agencies all across the state. They are so jealous of us because you don't know how valuable that resource is. They're like, oh my goodness, you guys have 3 helicopters and a drone unit. Wow, well, lucky you, Baltimore County. We are so proud. A lot of agencies, that helicopter, you have to be a shift commander or higher to even request. Here, any one of those officers, if they feel they need it, they can request it. We are so fortunate here in Baltimore County to have that resource. That's an invaluable tool. I know it may be a little noisy. I understand. I get it. But they're doing great work. They're protecting our cops. They're protecting you guys. It's a great resource to have, and we're very fortunate to have it. Community Partnership Academy, has everyone, it used to be called the Citizens Academy. Is anyone, we got 1 graduate here, huh? 2, 3, Wesley, I know you went twice, didn't you? Once, all right. So I encourage, Henry, you've been, right? No? Okay, well.
Henry, you
So
gotta go.
the Community Partnership Academy is, you don't have to do push-ups, you don't have to run, it's not that type of academy, I promise. But Sergeant Boston in the back, her shop oversees that. That is a 9-week program, 1 night a week, right here at headquarters, right here we meet, right down the street from where you live. It's usually on a Wednesday evening, 6:30 in the evening to about 9 consecutive Wednesdays starting in May. April the 2nd. I can tell you, I've never heard a negative thing about the people that go through it. It's basically an immersion program into the police department. You will get to go and see the helicopter you see flying in the air. You will get to go down to our aviation unit in Martins and actually see it and hear from them. You'll get to hear and see from our K-9 unit. You'll get to hear and see from our SWAT unit, our tactical unit. You'll get to go to our shooting range and use some of the tools that our trainees and recruits use to show the stressors that officers may have to understand, shoot, don't shoot, that kind of thing. We put you through an immersion program. You also learn about homicide, you learn about forensics. This crime scene we're talking about, the incredible work that our forensics team did, I think is really going to pay off in this. It was a huge scene. They collected a ton of evidence. So they sometimes are behind the scenes and don't get a lot of credit, but they do a fantastic job. So I encourage you, if you have time and commitment, you live close to us, I really encourage you to sign up for that program. Sergeant Boston in the back will be happy to give you information. You can find it on our website. So we start our next one here in the spring. And it's really, it's a way for us to see from the community how we are doing. What is it more you would like to see? What things you want from us? And it's also a time for an opportunity for you to see how we do things. So Major Kamali, if you want to add it, she teaches some of the courses there in that class. But really great program, and it's free, and I think we feed them every Wednesday. So, yes, good food, yes.
I was an 03 grad, and it's a really cool experience if you want to do it. You really get to see what police officers deal with. We did one night at the academy where you do situations.
The role play rooms and all. Yeah.
You know, so they have all kind. A traffic stop. I mean, it's pretty cool. So.
It's for you to see your police department. And I tell all these officers and recruits, I speak to the recruits every graduating class, that we are so lucky here in Baltimore County. A lot of my colleagues, they don't have the support of the community that we see here. You know, the night of this incident, the chief said to me, we're not going to normalize this behavior. And if we came to this meeting tonight and this place was empty, I would be concerned. I'd be concerned if the community wasn't out here. So it's great to see this many people turning out because this is not normal and it is irritating. And there's no one more that's more irritated than these cops that you saw here about when this stuff happens. They have to go out, they have to clean this mess up, and eventually our detectives are going to solve it. And I'm very confident that we're going to get there.
The new Chick-fil-A, by the way, stepped up that night. Some officers were showing up, I think, right when they were closing, and they ended up opening up the Chick-fil-A and letting officers come in. It was a cold night, and they stayed open for the officers. So it really felt like a community that night. So as horrible as it was, we saw kind of like, you know, we're still a big community here. So again, I thank everybody for coming out tonight. If you don't have, if you need my number, it's 410-887-3388, and I'm telling you, call about anything. Heather and Anne Marie and Jora are gonna cringe, but we take calls all day long about, seriously, there's graffiti on the box down the street, there's a mattress laying out, there's a whole bunch of trash at the corner of Putty Hill and Loch Raven. Whatever it is, let us know. We will try to deal with it as quickly as possible. We want to make sure that the quality of life here is as good as it gets, and we want to hear about things that happen. As the police said, if you don't tell us, we sometimes don't know. I feel like I know a lot of stuff, but we get something every day that we didn't know about. So thanks again, and thanks for Babcock Church for hosting us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate you all coming out on such a cold night. And hopefully things will be brighter and warmer soon. What's that? Go Ravens!
little nerve-wracking, but it's like...
I told you, I was sitting there and telling your major, I said, you know that young man's past all his peers as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's always a little nerve-wracking every time. You're like...
I think it started getting on their nerves that I always kind of
No,
talk about you. I know you'll take the
I'll
points
take
when
it.
I'm
I'll
telling
take
you.
it. Yeah.
They probably hate me. I said, yeah.
Well, and I felt it at in-service because I looked around. I was like, none of the other 9 want mine. So yeah, none of the other 9.
You're like, yeah, you guys are hating me right now, but I'll take it.
None of the other 9 want Towson. So I'll be happy to bear the blunt.
Yeah, but
it's good.
Yeah, it might just earn you major before.
You never know, sir. You never know.
You never know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.